YouTube. Preparing. I doubt we'll get a lot of viewers on tonight because we are just returning.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so we are live now on YouTube. I'm going to go ahead and share this link to Facebook. All right, let me go ahead and turn the volume down off of that. All right, so we'll actually, start this here in just a moment.
Okay. Yeah, we've been cleaning out that house all weekend, so I'm sorry I look so rough.
You're okay.
I was like, I'm not putting makeup on. I refuse.
All right, just shared it there. All right, so I got my YouTube channel back on. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back live, Restoring Families Internet Radio. We are back live now with you guys, trying to give you as much information as possible on how to deal with the corrupt system of family courts and CPS, along with many other types of corruption that's in this world today. But we are here. We told you we're going to be back, and guess what? We're here. And I am joined with Linda Steele, who's going to be my intermediate co-host from time to time. And, if anybody else wants to come on and be a co-host and, produce a show and whatnot, you guys are more than welcome to come on and use our program. So Linda Steele, welcome to my program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. And I'm happy to fill in to give your much needed co-host some paternity leave. I think that's awesome. So I'm happy to be here to help.
Absolutely. For our first show, and especially because the holiday season is literally right upon us. We're literally a week and a half away from Thanksgiving, that we figured, we start off our return show on talking about the difficulties that deal with, parents that are going through the system who don't get to see their children due to parental alienation, due to be taken away from the children by judges, by CPS, by godly individuals who think that they're doing what's in the best interest of our children. So this will be a great opportunity to, talk about this, give some resources and speak upon this from individual perspective.
Absolutely. And I think it's a perfect time to start having these conversations so that we can get ahead of this. Mm-hmm. If we could give some avenues and some ways of coping with the season that's upon us, that's what's going to be best for everybody. If we don't start thinking about it now, we're left up to, looks like we have somebody here to join us.
Ah. Who we got there? That.
Well, she's a little bit of a messy face. She had chili dog earlier, but you want to say hi, Anna? Yeah. Say hi.
Hi, Anna. How are you doing?
Say hi, Brian. Yeah, eating your cheese. She's a cheeseaholic.
So absolutely.
Yeah. So she's been returned back to her daddy now.
So yes, if anybody wants to come and join us tonight, you can go to Zoom. Let me go ahead and pull the Zoom ID up here. Make sure I got it correct. It's not going to let me pull it up at the moment. But it is in the description of this video. Let's see here.
Yeah, absolutely. And join in on the conversation. What we do to cope with the holiday season and being non-custodial parents, or reliving these cycles, is it could be different than what you're doing, and maybe what you're doing somebody else could lean on. So I think having a conversation within the community to have different ideas and different discussions around this topic, I think would be beneficial for everyone.
Absolutely. And if anybody wants to join us right here on Zoom live on YouTube, you can just type in Zoom. For the Zoom ID is 459-375-5685. 5568. And you don't have to be on video. You can call in through a phone as well using that number. Again, 459-375-5568. And you'll be able to join us live and give us your perspective on being an alienated parent, dealing with parental alienation. And if you're a parent who has the time to spend with your child, we want to hear from you too. We want to hear from all sides
or
here.
If you were the alienated child,
Or the internet.
let's
Yeah,
talk
exactly.
about what you went through during the holiday season.
Mhm.
If much of you guys don't know yet, that's kind of my perspective. I'm not the alienated parent. I speak a lot for the effects of being an alienated child. And, that's one thing I want to share with you guys tonight is the alienated child's perspective of the holiday season.
Absolutely.
I think it'd be an interesting thing to bring together for not just the parents who are living it, but the child's also living that very much so as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And to hear those perspectives too brings a whole different dynamic, because we normally don't hear of the children going through it. Right. So that right there alone, hearing that from a firsthand knowledge, firsthand spectrum, that people may, tend to
forget,
not forget, but make them think a little bit more about what they're doing. Maybe the person, maybe the parent who's actually doing the alienating, may rethink what they're doing, may have a different perspective of what, our children or what their children are going through. So it definitely brings a different spectrum to the playing field.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, and for me, it helps me to better understand the generational cycles, hearing about what the parents going through, because I didn't live that side of it. And so for me to be better versed and understood when it comes, because what we're living through right now is a cycle. I grew up fatherless. My mother grew up fatherless. My grandfather was fatherless.
Mm-hmm.
What I experienced was no different than what my mother experienced. It probably just had a different, circumstances happen in between. So when we can start relating not just what I went through, but the cycles that my generations of family continue to live through, I think it spreads some of the biggest adversaries of change,
mm-hmm.
because now we're not looking at our own situation, but we're actually seeing the effects of our own childhoods, which I think is huge.
Absolutely. But also these times as well, the holiday season, because, that's what we're going to get into here momentarily. It's a very stressful situation for many parents out there who don't get to talk or even see their children. So I do want to make this known. And for anyone who out there is having such ideologies of suicide, please, I'm showing up on the screen right now. It's the Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 1-800-273-8255, 1-800-273-8255. You can also text 741-741, and this is a 24-hour live chat line as well as call-in line. So definitely go and talk to somebody today if you're having this ideologies of suicide. From not being able to see your children, please. And it doesn't have to be just not seeing your children. It could be for any godforsaken reason. If you're having these ideologies, definitely, reach out to talk to somebody today. Linda, you want to add something to that?
To the benefits of calling into the suicide line or reaching out? Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is something we sometimes forget about, or we don't initially think of to do when we're going through these ideologies. We don't automatically, no matter how many people say it to us, there's a suicide line or there's somebody you can lean on. If we don't choose to take those avenues, we're leaving ourselves unsupported. And we need to reach out to each other. If that's a suicide line, if that's a friend, if that's a family member, if that's somewhere you could just go where you're going to be understood, I think that's the strongest part of the shared parenting community. When we have that community that says, what you're going through is not okay. What you're feeling is very real. What you're dealing with is very hard. Reach out to me. That's the importance of a suicide line. That's the importance of the shared parenting community. That's the importance of people like you, Brian, who create these podcasts, who create these conversations. And I think it's up to us to really take advantage of those. People don't just put up these suicide, lines because there wasn't a reason. You didn't just start this podcast because there wasn't a reason. At the same time, we're going to need you individuals who are actually living these issues and having these ideologies to take the time for yourself and call. Take the time for yourself and reach out, because we don't do what we do for ourselves. We do it for an entire community. So I think providing those avenues of resources is huge. And I hope your audience takes advantage of those and calls them when they need to.
Absolutely. And you don't necessarily have to call the crisis hotline. For those who are going through the family law system, who are having those difficult times, there's so many of us out there, not just parents, but also children like yourself, Linda, that can literally talk with you. We're going through it ourselves. Some of us have been dealing with it for 5, 10, 15, and even 20 plus years. Those who children have turned 18 and have gotten out of the system and they're off on their own, parents are still fighting. And now the children are starting to step up, because we already know that dealing with the system is a domino effect. It literally, when our children are in it, the next thing you know, their children, and then our great grandchildren and so forth. It's a domino effect. It continues to, it's a cycle. But we must end the cycle.
And alienation doesn't just stop when a child turns 18. Like when you become a legal adult, there's no magical fairy dust that gets sprinkled on you on your 18th birthday that says you're no longer alienated. A lot of times the situation actually gets worse. When you become an adult and you have the ability to think for yourself, and you think, you know what, I am going to reach out to this person. I do want to know who this other half of me is. You find yourself as an adult alienated all over again, but this time from the person who raised you. So it's like you switch the powers of alienation from the person who chose to alienate you to the person who's purposely alienating you. And that child is continuously stuck in the middle. I'm no longer a child. I'm almost 28 years old. I'm almost 28. And now it turned from my parent who raised me alienating me from the other to the one who alienated me is now choosing to do it to me again. And that's because I reached out. And we don't talk about those cycles enough. We get stuck in the mindset of what we're experiencing of ourselves, and we don't stop to think about what that does to the loved ones around us.
Absolutely. And, just the thought of it, I can't even, as a child, I can't even imagine what a child's going through this. I can only think and assume what our children, because, I got 2 children that I'm fighting for. I just recently filed for joint custody of my 2 children. Luckily, I get to see them on the 30th because I can only see them once a month right now until this goes through the court system again. Wow. Yeah, it's very sad, but to know that I can't see my kids on Thanksgiving, on the holidays, period. There is a huge hardship, and I can't even imagine what they're thinking, what they're going through during this process. So, this is also for them too, because we're going to get some resources. We're going to be talking about this in great depth tonight on this 2-hour, roughly about an hour and a half, 2-hour our conversation here. And if anybody else wants to come and join, again, you can join us on, YouTube tonight through Zoom. If you got the Zoom app, if not, download it, and then all you got to do is in the Zoom ID, you just need to type that in, which is 459-375-5568, 459-375-5568. And again, you don't have to be on camera. You can use a cell phone. You can literally just call that number too, and you can come on live with us and speak. So, as a matter of fact, I'm actually sharing this everywhere.
And we want to hear from you.
We want to hear from everybody. Anyone is that's an activist, anyone who's having troubles dealing with the system, who needs to vent, who needs to just talk, period. That's what these shows are for, and we're going to try to provide as much information to help you out, so much guidance, but I do want to stress this. We're not attorneys. We don't claim to be attorneys. We don't give legal advice, but we give knowledge based upon the legal system,
and what we've been through.
Exactly, on our personal experiences. So, but Linda, I know you had a great topic to go along with this. So why don't you go ahead and bring it out?
So the topic I wanted to speak of when it came to the holiday season and being alienated, was for sure the alienated child. But I realized, because we have this conversation a lot in my house, we actually talk about the perspective of the alienated child or the fatherless child a lot, because my fiance and I both happen to have grown up without our biological fathers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we have a lot of similarities, but we have so many like different perspectives of things. And so when it comes to the holiday season, that's one thing that we find a difference in. And so when I found out I was coming on here with you, I was like, I kind of want to know Brian's perspective too. Weird, my fiance's name is Brian as well, so my Brian,
Mm-hmm.
his perspective. But I asked him, did it seem weird to you having the holidays without your biological father? And he said no. And I said yes. And so I started asking other questions like, well, what about when you found out, that your stepdad was your stepdad and not your biological father? Was that weird? And he said no, because he was always there. I
Mm-hmm.
never knew the man who was my father. So it wasn't like I was missing something or someone. I still had a dad, and his parents, his stepdad and his mom, stayed married his entire life. They're still married, they're happily married.
Mm-hmm.
And my perspective was so different. I remember being a kid and being embarrassed that I was a part of this crowd of kids at school where none of us had our dads. We all either had single moms or we had no family. And it was always kind of one of those things where I kind of stood off into this circle and we didn't discuss what we did over Christmas break because we didn't have the stories with grandparents or dads or families that were together. We came from broken homes. And so I just
Mm-hmm.
remember that being like in my mind as a child, just being like, this isn't okay. Christmas wasn't even something to celebrate. It was just something you expected to get gifts on, but there was no like family celebration.
Mm-hmm.
So hearing from my Brian's perspective and my perspective, and then being very different, I looked a lot at his stability and what his stability created for him as a child. So he actually he went to go meet his biological father for the first time after he came home from Iraq, and he found out he had just died like 30 days prior.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, he never got that closure. He never got to ask those questions. But he has gotten in contact with his other siblings and his family members, and he's building this relationship. And so I asked him, does it feel different to you now? And he just said, what's the hardest part, Linda? He said, knowing what his family is now, it makes me wonder. When I was a child growing up without my biological father, but I had stability, would it have broke me as a child if he, at that point in time, fought to be in my life, or I fought to be in his and broke up my stability and broke up my normality? I look at my own self as a father. This is what he's saying. I see my children every other weekend. I fight to have 50-50. I want to have joint custody, but their entire lives, they've never been able to have that.
Mm-hmm.
Do I break their normality and how do they react? Or do I suck it up and know that I'm being wronged and they're being wronged, but at least I don't break their normality? What do I do?
Hmm.
I thought that was extremely interesting.
It was. It definitely makes the brain, turn a little bit.
Yeah.
You know,
So, what do
it,
you think?
I don't know. This you can answer this in so many different ways.
Yeah.
You want to make it as less painful and less stressful as possible for the children. We do have
Yeah.
to keep their thoughts in mind too. Their feelings. Because yes, we focus on the children. We have to focus on the children. Those are the first and foremost individuals that we have to think of. First and foremost, we are second when it comes to our children.
Absolutely.
So we have to keep in the back of our mind that yes, we're hurting too, but we must
Right.
have and keep a cordial appearance with or without our children. For
Right.
look at some of these parents that are going on social media, on live feeds and stuff like that, and they start bashing the other family regardless of the situation. Especially during
Yeah.
the holiday seasons, it's not good. Especially if the other parents or other family members are viewing on such live feeds, and they're hearing all this, and now it's getting back and it's getting being done in front of the children, that it's just not good for them. So we have to keep mindful of what we're doing, especially during the holidays.
Yeah, and I thought about it because it was a perspective I didn't consider. You forget that at one point in time it was something your child had to identify as their normality, but at another point in time it was never their normality. So you created a cycle, right? And that cycle was having a broken home on Christmas, only having one parent's family on Christmas. We've created that as parents, as a society, as a court system. We created that. We condone that for our children. And so it brought me to thinking, does it hurt the child to take in the perspective of that father or that mother wanting to be there, wanting to be involved, breaking that child's cycle of normality? Or is it better for the child to let them have a normality of dysfunction? And I had to think about that. And I realized that, what, here's what it is at the end of the day. At the end of the day, when we made children with somebody we're not going to stay with, we've already hurt them. Done. You've already created a fracture. Okay. By furthering to erase that parent off of the notion of normality for the child is something we're allowing ourselves to create. If you use it as an excuse to create a normality for your child, essentially you're saying to your kid, it's okay to be dysfunctional. It's okay to live like this. And when that child becomes an adult, they say the same thing. But my Brian, I have to keep saying that, what my Brian is going through is the normality of his ex-wife's childhood. What she is doing, what she does every holiday season, is no different than the childhood she lived. So when we ask ourselves to look at ourselves now as adults, well, sweetheart, we've already lived this cycle as a child. Somebody already said it was okay to create this as a normality. But it turns out when we became adults, we created the same dysfunction. Why are we repeating the cycle to say that it's going to be different for our kids when our kids become adults? It's not okay. The break has already been done. We can quit using that as an excuse now to further keep a parent away from their child. We can now use it as an excuse to co-parent. When we accept the responsibility that we already created a pain, we already created a hurt, we already created a dysfunctional normality for our kid by having a child with somebody we're not going to stay with, we now as adults need to take at least one good step in the right direction and say, at least I'm going to co-parent. At least my kid will always be able to see their parent.
Well, the good thing also about co-parenting is at this point, not only is the child having one Christmas, one Thanksgiving, whatever holiday it is, now they're having two.
Yeah.
So exactly. So whether it's actually happening on the holiday day, like Thanksgiving, which is next Thursday, they could have two Thanksgivings instead of just one, which brings a bigger appreciation to the holidays too, because they realize that both parents are working together. So they have that opportunity to spend time with the other half, because you got to think about it. It's not just parents that are going through the parental alienation, the grandparents, the nieces, the nephews, the aunts, the uncles, it's not just a parent, it's the extended family too. So, the children, when one parent is alienating the child from the other parent, it is taken away from the extended family that they have. It's taken away the grassroots from which they came. So, because there's a lot of history when it comes to families, and and one thing I always tell parents that, when they talk to me about, should I go for joint custody and not full custody? I'm like, well, why would you want to go to full custody? That's, your children have already sacrificed so much. They're already being torn apart inside themselves. Why are you going to cause them more traumatic trauma, by taking them away from the other parent? Regardless of the situation, you need to set your feelings aside from the other parent.
What's up?
We just had a comment. It says parents should always never be expected to make the other parents conveniences by walking away after making things difficult or over the threat of things getting difficult should they choose to not walk. that's a fair statement.
Yeah, definitely. And everybody knows me as the adult who speaks for the alienated child. But I don't really talk about my co-parenting. I was an alienated child, and guess what? I grew up to become a parent of divorce. All right. Shocker. I relived this cycle. And so I recognize those
Domino
pains of
effect.
my childhood. It is. It totally is. And I recognize those pains of my childhood, and I simply just said, this is not going to be my kids. Like, I'm not reliving this. And so I chose to co-parent. I have a 50-50. I have an extremely true 50-50 where, there is no child support. We do a 1 week on, 1 week off, but we worked it out to where we see our kids every day. My kids don't go a day without seeing their mom and dad, but they still get equal time with us. And so we don't have to go into that because this is about holiday season. So everybody said, how do you share your holiday season, right? If you do a 50-50, that means a parent doesn't get them. So how do you do that on the holidays, right? Very simple. We chose to not put ourselves in the middle of holidays, but put our families in the middle of the holidays. Growing up as a child who was alienated, who never spent a day with family on Christmas or Thanksgiving, I remember how lonely that was. I remember we invited friends over to our house because we didn't have family to celebrate it with. We either celebrated with just my mom and my brother and sisters, or we had neighbors come over, or, there was never aunts and uncles, grandmas, cousins, none of that. So when it came to my own kids, I didn't want my kids to ever spend a holiday without family. I thought that was one of the worst parts of my childhood and took away from those positive memories. So the way we do our holidays is whoever can get their family to have the biggest gathering is where our children go. And whoever family doesn't have the biggest gathering just picks a different day. So the child or children, in my case, are still celebrating holiday with big families. It's just we give each other the respect of making sure our children make memories with their cousins, their grandparents, their aunts, their uncles. And coming from a position of alienation, my kids do not have a grandmother on my side of the family. They do not have a grandfather. They don't even have their aunts. They've never met their aunts or uncle. It's still a form of alienation, very real in my adulthood. And I never wanted my kids to experience that. And so my kids spend the holiday on the day with their father because their father has like 50 family members. Well, why would I want my kids to miss out on those memories, on that support system, on, those traditions? And instead, I take the day after, the day before, whenever I can get my friends together, and I do a Friendsgiving with my children because I wanted them to still be able to celebrate with me. I just don't have that traditional family to celebrate with. So we split our holidays by whoever's family can have the largest gathering, and that's where our children go. It's simple. It makes it to where neither of us can win unless we allow our children to have a large family. That was it. So,
and that right there is a prime example on how to do so. But I really want to touch on the parent who doesn't get to see the child, because that's where we really need to focus on. And I do know
and the
that
support's needed.
Exactly. I do know that Carlos Rivera, and I'm going to be helping him out with this. I'm actually going to make the suggestion. He may join us here in a little bit. He has some plans, but he said he might come on and join us and talk more in depth of this. But on Thanksgiving Day, because literally it's right around the corner, like I said, we understand the struggles that come along with not being able to talk or even see your children. So for the last couple of years, we've been doing what they call a marathon, a parental alienating marathon. So for those who don't get a chance to be able to see their children, or even go visit other family, because sometimes it's just so stressful that they don't even go out and spend time with other family members themselves, that they still need that support network. So this year we're doing it again. We're putting together a 24-hour live feed, for parents to come on, for activists to come on and talk for at least an hour. So an hour or two, depending on, what they choose. But to be able to talk about it and be able to have other people come on and make their suggestions and tell us their story and find ways to be able to cope with not being able to see their children. So that's a great opportunity.
Awesome. I actually watch it. I watch it too. But last year I watched it. This year I'm going to watch it. And I think it's so great that you have so many strong people in this community who's willing to give that time as well. And I think it shows, for everybody who's watching out there, how many people not just are only affected by this, but understand what you guys are going through during this season and want to be there for you.
Mm-hmm.
I know that doesn't bring your kids back, bring the memories back that you want to have, but to stay strong, to continue to get through this battle, I think having the appreciation for people like you and Carlos and everybody who's on your team that takes the time out of your own day to be a part of that, I think it speaks volumes for how supportive the shared parenting community is, especially during this time of the year.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's exactly the reason why we do that, because it gives, especially if they're just beginning this, to realize that there is a network, there is a support group out there. And that's exactly what the 24-hour marathon is about, is giving that support, for others to be like, okay, I am not the only one. There are people I can talk to. And we've noticed a huge following every year that we've done this. And to see, we got Cash Jackson, we've got Ginger Gentile, Carlos Rivera himself, myself. I'm pretty sure you're going to, and Mike Whitney. I'm pretty sure you're going to do an hour this year.
I'm going to try. Yeah.
Yeah. And countless others, come together and make this work. Joe Gentry. God, there's, I hate to mention names because there's so many individuals out there that are that love to speak about this because they understand the struggle. So, so for those who I didn't mention, I do apologize. It's nothing personal against you, but there, we can spend the next, 24 hours ourselves just mentioning off all the names,
Well, and all of the good that it brings to our community. Mm-hmm. I think you posting up the suicide hotline number is wonderful. Advocating and really getting the awareness out of there, like be prepared, everybody. We are going to have the 24-hour marathon again. There's that suicide number. We're going to have the 24-hour marathon again, where we are going to take that time to really talk to everybody who's out there experiencing this. Mm-hmm. That's huge. That is huge. And actually, one thing I really like to do is we started last year here in my state doing a co-parenting Christmas, or not co-parenting, but a non-custodial father Christmas. And we did a potluck style. A community center donated the space to us, and all of the dads who didn't have their kids on Christmas, we all came together to have a Christmas dinner together. And I would extend that offer to anybody. Like if you're watching from Illinois and Texas,
that is an excellent idea. I never really thought about doing something like that. And it does. It's a huge opportunity to bring the community together, because not only do you have the alienated parent, maybe you have another parent who does have their children. Make it a family-oriented event. And, to get that support network. And it was really cool. That's huge. Yeah. Wow. I never thought about that before. But that's the thing, we have to work together like we're doing here. We're going to be working with Dad Talk Today and several other podcasters. Oh, yes. Awesome. Matter of fact, I do want you to, because I know they're doing a fundraiser. Can you please tell us a little bit about that fundraiser real quick?
Okay, so there is another Brian we need to talk about. Now, this is the third Brian, so we're going to keep these Brians straight.
There are too many Brians in this movement, I tell you.
There's a ton of Brians. But this Brian in particular is a very special Brian. Dad Talk Today and Chris Gannon versus the Man are doing a fundraiser for a boy named Brian. And this boy named Brian was in a very horrendous explosion. Okay. His mom had custody and it was a typical story we hear about alienation. I'm not trying to freak anybody out, but it was that situation. And Brian's mom was in a hotel room and was doing something with like hash or cannabis oil, don't get me lying, something caused a fire, and Brian was in the hotel room. Brian's dad was looking, trying to be a part of his life, doing all this stuff, and doesn't get to hear from him until this accident happens and Brian's in the hospital about to die. So Brian's dad rushes over, is there by his son. His mother survives. Mom gets a little bit of jail time. I'm talking like 6 months or something, like not a lot. And dad gets custody. So now dad, who had been trying to be a part of his child's life, is now only afforded to be in his child's life because of this horrendous accident. So Brian requires 24-hour care. And because of this care, dad has to administer this care and has lost his job and is trying to support his child and get these necessary surgeries that are needed to make sure his airway is proper and make sure he's able to, because he's still growing, he's only a teenager, so he has to get different skin grafts done so he can continue to grow without getting injured. And Dad Talk Today and Gannon versus the Man is doing a fundraiser for him. There's a GoFundMe link. We could post it down below. I don't have my computer on me, so I can't do it right now, but
we could definitely post it afterwards. Yes.
Yeah. And they're raising the funds because the next surgery he needs, basically Medicaid was like, sorry, we can't help you. And so they are trying to raise like $155,000 to help with the surgery. Gannon versus the Man put on a music festival benefit. I know there's a GoFundMe that's going. They've been promoting it on all of their podcasts, and we're trying to raise the money so that Brian can get this surgery. And we're trying to help this dad provide for his child when he has to administer this care and is having a difficult time affording things that the insurance refuses to pay for the care of his son. So please go check him out. If we can't post the link right now, it is on Dad Talk Today. We will get this link below soon. And definitely help out this dad and this son.
Absolutely.
He's an awesome kid.
It's an awesome cause to do so. And it's for one of our children. It doesn't have to be blood to be our children. They're all our children. It takes a huge community to make sure our children are grown up in the proper fashion. So definitely, I'm actually posting the link to Dad Talk Today. It's a Facebook link. So I'll be posting it in the comments right now. So that's the link right there in the comment section on YouTube. So if you want to go there to their Facebook page, the link's there for the actual donation spot is there. Just go there and donate today. Donate as much as you can. But I'm also going to be starting doing a fundraiser here very soon for the Nancy Schaefer event coming up in March.
Yes.
I do want to, do a plug in for that. March 26th through the 28th, we're doing the 5th annual Remembrance of Nancy Schaefer Festival. And the last couple of years that we've done, it's only been a one-day event, but we're doing a 3-day event this year instead of a one-day.
That's awesome.
So many people, it's like, well, if it was more than one day, we'll be more prone to come out. So we decided to do a 3-day event. And I'm working with Kathleen Arthur and several other organizations to help make this work. And the good thing about this is that since it's a 3-day event, the first day, of course, is going to be March 26th, the day that Nancy Schaefer, matter of fact, she's right here, right above me. That's Nancy right there. I live by her legacy. That we're going to be, again, out on the National Mall, right above 12th Street. 12th Street actually is a tunnel that goes under the National Mall. So we're actually going to be above the tunnel, which is also right next to the metro station, the Smithsonian National Mall Metro entrance. So you could definitely park outside the city, take Metro in, boom, you're there. But the second day, now this is where it's going to get very, very interesting. We do have secured already a government facility, theater. We're not saying which government facility yet, but it's a theater inside one of the facilities, and we got it secured. Thank you to Kathleen Arthur to secure this. We're going to be providing 2 documentaries, one by Yahya McClain. His film is Casualties of War, Warriors Against the Regime. And then here's the second one.
And I've seen that one.
Yes.
I've seen that one. That one is awesome.
Yeah. You can view this on YouTube. You can also go, on YouTube. You can watch it on YouTube. But you can also come and see it on the 27th of March. But here's where it gets interesting, because his documentary deals with the parent side what they're going through, parental alienation, and how we as parents are fighting and trying to get new legislation, new laws, even though we don't need any more new laws. It's a God-given right to parent our children. But it specifically deals with the parents aspect. But then we're going to turn it over and get the child's aspect. And this is where I got Ginger Gentile with Erasing Families to be able to allow us to air her documentary too.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
Now I
think both of those like back to back will be huge.
Absolutely. And this also gives an opportunity because senators, congressmen, our representatives can actually come and view these documentaries. Now, to get into the documentary, it's going to be a $20 surcharge at the door. We're not doing any tickets, for people to, pre-order and whatnot. It's going to be $20 at the door. This is going to help accumulate some of the funding that I've had to do out of pocket myself. But we are asking for donations right now due to the fact because we have to pay to get the documentary out here. We have to pay to get Ginger out here. We have to pay for the hotel room, the air travel, all that stuff. This gets costly. So I am asking also for donations. So if anybody wants to donate, they can contact me personally on Facebook, or they can send me an email at RFIRnetwork@gmail.com. Again, RFIRnetwork@gmail.com. We can definitely make that happen. I will be setting up a link here in the coming days after Thanksgiving to be able to start doing this. But we're also going to be doing a shirt booster event, which is going to be shirts sold for the event. And those are going to be $20 plus tax. We have to be able to get enough people to be able to purchase them in order for the booster team to actually make them. I think it's like 20 shirts we'll have to sell off the bat. And then after that, we start making a profit off the shirts that goes towards, getting
affording this.
Affording this whole event. And if anybody knows Mark Ludwig, he will be the first one to tell you that this is expensive. It's not cheap at all, by no means. But what we're doing with these two documentaries, getting Ginger out here, getting Yaya out here, we're also going to have Dr. Mark Roseman come out. He's going to be one of our guest speakers on the second day.
I'm excited to meet him. I've only heard really great things come from Dr. Roseman and everything he's doing.
Mm-hmm. I got to meet him. Yeah, I've got to meet him a couple of times here in DC, Virginia, when Mark Ludwig has done his events, Americans for Equal Share Parenting events. And it's a wonderful guy. So we got him coming out to speak on the second day of the event. And then, of course, many others, are going to be speaking to Carlos Rivera, James Kelly, and several others are going to be here during that day. They're not just going to be speaking on the second day. They'll be speaking on the first day if they so choose. But anyone can speak on the first day. But the documentary, the ed panel, the ed workshop that we're doing, that's going to be on the second day with the documentary. So this is going to be huge to be able to have both documentaries viewed.
What is your workshop going to be about?
Well, the whole thing about changing the system, making it equal shared parenting, for all across the board, not just for one state or another state. No, I'm talking about straight across the line, across the board, whatever you want to call it. It should be automatic that it should be equal shared parenting anyway.
Yeah. So it's more of like a legislative workshop to help people, articulate shared parenting to their legislators?
Yes. Yeah, you can't say that, but it's more just to bring awareness to what parents are going through. And then again, with Gentile, it brings the children's aspect into it too. So we're getting both sides of the spectrum, not just the parents, but we're also getting the children. And then the third day, which will be Saturday, we're going to be doing a march through DC. Now, I'm trying to work with another individual. A few months back during the summertime, we did a march through DC from the White House to the east side of the Capitol building. And we were actually able to march in the streets. We actually had a police escort and everything. It was wonderful. So I'm working with this individual as well. I'm not giving their name out right now. But we're trying to get the same aspect, but going from the Capitol building to the White House. So
That is awesome.
we're planning on blocking the streets again, with the police escort and everything. So it's going to be good. So this 3-day event definitely is really, really going to be good, and it's going to bring out a lot
I
of
love
different
that.
aspects. Yeah. So
I know
like I said, I'm
last year I
working.
couldn't make it. I was stuck at work, I remember, and I was like, damn it, I really wanted to go. And so this time I'll definitely be able to have the opportunity to go. So
Mhm.
I have a team here, that a team that I work with. I recently created my own organization, um, because I am so much more community mindset that I am on the legislative side. I don't have a problem talking with legislators. I have a hard time communicating, and it's been very positive in the past 2 weeks, I will say that, but I have a
Mhm.
lot more success in my community. And so I focus a lot more on resources for fathers, which, speaking of this holiday season, I think one thing that is really beneficial when it comes to alienated parents, I feel when we are going through these hard times and we're not allowing ourselves to come outside of our doors for people to interact with us, and we're stuck inside, we're depressed, we're going through the hardest part of this year, which is when you're supposed to be with your family and you're not allowed to be. Okay. What we try to offer here to our alienated community is community. So we do a lot of volunteer work with parents who are either alienated, grandparents who are alienated, people who don't have family in general, because we're seeing these cycles of fatherless children growing up to be familyless adults. And
Mhm.
so we do a lot of volunteer work. So this, at the beginning of December, end of November, we're looking to do a chili cook-off for our homeless community, and
Very cool.
non-custodial parents get, they're the ones that do the chili making, and then our homeless community, they actually do all the chili eating and testing, and whoever wins usually gets a trophy. And it's a good way for fatherless childrenless fathers or childrenless mothers to participate in the community, have an excuse. I think that's what impacted me the most was when we did that Christmas dinner with dads last year. I had a dad come up to me and he said, "Thank you for giving me a reason to leave my house." And he was brand new into what was going on. And he said, "I haven't left my house in 6 weeks.
Mm.
And you're the first person who gave me a reason to come out." And what I realized was, if these dads that were going through this, and not to sound sexist, but if you look at the statistics, we're mainly talking to a male dominated population when it comes to parental alienation. So no offense, moms, if you're going through this, please, I'm right there with you. It's not okay. But this man in particular, he said, "Thank you for giving me a reason to leave my house. It's been 6 weeks." You know why he left his house?
Why's
To
that?
go feed homeless people. To go feed homeless people.
Gave him a
That was
purpose.
his reason. It gave him a purpose, and to see this man have absolutely nothing, lose his family, trying to maneuver a system he doesn't understand, come out and say, at least by getting to give back to this community that has even less than me, made me feel like I had a reason to wake up today. Thank you. And
Mhm.
I thought that was huge. Um, and if there's anybody out there listening, I understand it's hard some days to get out of bed. The holidays are among us, and you're going to go to the grocery store and you're going to see turkeys, you're going to see hams, and you're going to realize that
It's going to be a lot
not
of
everybody's
triggers.
home. Not everybody's home has the same festivities, but give yourself a reason to get out of your house. If that reason is going to walk around the block, if that reason is to call a friend that you also know doesn't have family, give yourself a reason. And I think that is some of the best advice we could give to our parents that are going through this. And that's what I think that's what your guys' 24-hour podcast creates. It's a
Mhm.
reason. You give people a
Absolutely.
reason to stay connected. And what I do in my community gives people a reason to get out of their houses. And so I think it's huge. And I think, take that away from this. Give yourself a reason,
Well,
because
I
there's
wouldn't even,
a
that
million of them.
absolutely. I want to add into that even though we do the 24 hours, I highly suggest getting with other family members. You know, if you have friends that are doing something together, you know, in the past, I've actually had many friends, you know, offer for me to come over to have Christmas turkey dinner with them, whatever you want to call it. And so having that support network that's nearby, I'm talking about friends, families, you know, and you don't have to be blood to be family. You know, I considered Linda a family member, you know, because she's part of this movement. Anybody that
Absolutely.
I deal with in this movement is family to me. So, but if you can get with others, you know, that are going through it, who don't wish to go spend time with their family because it just brings up too many heartaches. We understand, get with other people too. You're going to be talking about it, whatnot, but at least you'll have that support network from those who are physically facing it with you. So try
Absolutely.
to find something, you know, get with other parents that are going through it in your neighborhood and do a potluck, you know, great
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, and I
So,
think that's really awesome. I think it's what our society is missing in general
mhm,
is we have come so far inside of our own homes that we're not willing to reach out. And I think during times like this is, you know, with the holiday season is the number one time where we see the reality of staying silent. We see the
mhm,
reality of not connecting with our neighbors. You, if you're watching this, you're somebody's neighbor.
mhm,
Okay. You are somebody's brother, sister, mother, father, nephew, cousin, what have you. You are somebody's somebody.
mhm.
And we need to remember that. It takes a million excuses to not do something, but it takes only one to get something done. And I think going outside of your house, you only have one excuse to get that done, and you can give yourself a million reasons not to do it.
Yeah, pretty much. Don't make the excuse. You know,
Yeah.
you want to stay connected to your community first and foremost. You know, I know it's difficult, and that's the reason why we do these podcasts to get people out there, you know, to talk. You know, Restoring Families Internet Radio, we are the voice for the voiceless because there are many people out there who are afraid to speak out. You know, they're afraid of retaliation. They're afraid of going to jail. Judges giving gag orders, which we already know is already unconstitutional to begin with. You
Yeah.
know, you have under the First Amendment to speak and be your own reporter. So do not be afraid to speak out and talk about what you're going through. Now there are some legal legalities that comes with speaking out though. Like you can't mention your children's name, can't mention the other party's name. You know, be mindful of that. But you know, you can
You
say
can't
child
threaten.
one.
Don't threaten.
Yeah. Just share your story. Tell them what happened. You know, that's what
Yeah.
it's all about. You know, and tell us, you know, show us, you know, what you're going through. Like I said, there's many of us out there. I've been dealing with it going on 10 years. So
Wow.
yeah, it's been stressful. It took me many years to come with terms with what I was going through. But I tell you what, by doing these podcasting, you know, by coming on here and speaking to each and every single one of you that are watching this right now, you know, this is my therapy. Helping somebody else, that's my therapy. You know, making sure
Yeah.
somebody else doesn't go into the courtroom and start going off on the judge. I'm not going to say the words because you know we are live on YouTube, and it is kid friendly, but going off on the judge, okay, you don't want to do that. I did because I saw my rights being taken. I saw my children's rights being taken, but it took me many years to realize that it's not about me. It's about our children. And I've seen many
Yeah.
other parents out there make it about themselves. It's not about you. Yes, share what you've gone through because it shows what the children have gone through. It shows that they've been taken from you based upon whatever accusation the courts, CPS, or police, whatever you know, made against you. Share what you've been through because in the end, you know, by you speaking out and showing the corruption that you've been through, you know, the torment, the extreme tyrannistic system that's been against you, you know, whether it be from bias accusations to just straight up lies, you know,
Yeah.
we want to hear what you're going through because then we can, with our experiences, like I said, it took me several years to do it. And for somebody, I got a friend of mine right now that's just begun this here, and he's having a very hard time. And luckily, this past week I've been able to talk with him and help him out and give him some good guidance, to be able to fight his case.
Yeah, and that's huge too. And I think the next thing we have to remember is after we, put back into perspective that it's not about us, it is about the child. Okay. We need to then learn to be constructive and not destructive.
Exactly.
And that is extremely difficult. And in a lot of ways, it's unfair. It's unfair because if you look at how society reacts, if you look at how people react, when you're being wronged, okay, you react. Unfortunately, in the system we're a part of, reacting is only better giving them an excuse to continue their behavior. And you have to somehow not even internalize it, but dissect it, throw it back up, and learn how to be constructive with it. And I think that's the next step. Talking to people, telling people what you're going through, huge. That's your first step. But next, we're going to need you to listen, because most of us that you're talking to have already been through it. And I understand everyone's situation is a little different, but being constructive is the same. And when you talk with people, especially like yourself or like me, who've lived through the system, been through the system, the advice we give isn't to be callous, isn't to be cold, isn't because you're not being heard. It's to show you a constructive way so you don't have to go through our already destructive behaviors we've learned from to become constructive. And I think that's the next step we need to teach our community. I mean, how many people come to you on a daily basis?
Oh God. Believe it or not, if I were to go into my emails right now, I probably have, a couple hundred emails just from parents alone, wanting to speak out. And we're going to bring them out. But the one thing I do want to let people know is that when they come on podcasts like this, you got to be very careful what you say, because there are legal legalities that can be brought against you. Like I said, mentioned a little bit ago, you can't mention names of the children, can't mention names of the other parties, so you got to be very careful what you do. But when we bring guests onto RFIRN, and you'll see it, I'm actually right now, including after this live feed, I'm taking our old shows from Blog Talk Radio, and I'm cutting them up, shortening them down a little bit, and I'm going to be adding them to our YouTube channel here in the coming weeks. So you'll be able to hear and see these other shows that we've done over the last 4 years. Now, we have been gone for the last, since I want to say April, taking so much needed R&R, because, doing this for 4 years, it literally took a toll. Not to mention, we had our own personal thing. Steven had a baby, which is one of the reasons why he's not here on the return show. But, we have our own personal situations that we're dealing with too. And it was just getting too overwhelming that we both said, you know what? Time out. Let's take a break and come back at it hard. And, we wish we would have came back a little bit sooner, but certain things stopped that from happening. But we're here. But when we bring people on our show, we don't just bring them on the show just to bring them on. We do speak with them first. We do a preliminary interview with them. Because, when we bring somebody on, we don't want them to go from point A to point Z to point D to W to, we don't want them skipping all over the place, going from the beginning to the end immediately. So, we want to go from point A to the point Z straight through with no hesitation. So, there is a process when we do interviews to make sure that we stay on topic and things get told the way they're supposed to get told. So legal allegations can't be made. Or legal represent. I can't think of the word I'm thinking of, but no repercussions.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, so no legal repercussions. There we go. Can be brought against you. Now, of course, we are a First Amendment rights, a movement here. That's why we do these podcastings, because we do have the right to talk and get what's happening out there for the people to hear, because the general public. And I know you can vouch for this, and I know all the others out there, like Angela May and Stephen Ball, Carlos Rivera, when we deal with these type of situations, a lot of people are literally dragging up what's deep inside them. Sorry, it's a little emotional even talking about this, because I've had to go
Yeah,
through it.
take your time.
So
No, take your time. And this is the important side. Okay. You have emotion behind this.
mm-hmm.
We understand being a part of this movement. We know why you took a break from April. There's days where answering the phone is detrimental to our own mental health,
Mm-hmm.
because it's reliving that trauma and reliving that pain, trying to help the next person who's coming to us. And unfortunately, it's a swarm. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to process your own emotions in order to simply do what you're trying to do, which is give back to those who are coming to you,
Yep.
which is commendable. Okay. And what you've experienced, okay, what I've experienced, and we didn't take what we experienced and said, you know what, this sucks, I'm going to fix it for myself and move on. We didn't take the easy way out.
Nope.
We said, what I experienced is not okay. And I'm going to make sure the next guy doesn't experience this, or my child doesn't experience this. And I'm going to be the one who bears this cross, who hurts from this pain. I'm going to make a goddamn difference.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse my language. And that's not easy. And when you have to process that pain on a constant basis, all right, it is so difficult, and people don't see that. And if you haven't heard this lately, Brian,
what happens behind the scenes? I thank you. What happens behind the scenes? I tell you what, doing these interviews with these people, like I said, I see me inside them. You know, they're saying things like, "Oh my God, I was there. I did that."
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was sold against me. That was told against me. You know, this, that, whatever. You know, I had to go through it too. So yeah, by bringing these people on and giving them a voice, it gives them the courage to step up and realize that they're not the only ones going through it. And that's the reason why I do what I do with Restoring Families Internet Radio Network. Now, a lot of people ask me, well, are you really restoring families? Yes, we have. And we've had several successful stories over the last 4 years that we've done this, where we reunited child and parent, or parent and child. We've actually had, which I will be posting as well, a couple of the shows where we did have all that. So you will be able to hear it firsthand. Now, it's very difficult to make it happen, because it's got to be up to you, the listeners, that want to make it happen. If you want to reunite with your children, you have to make it happen. We can't make it happen for you. We can only give you guidance in order to make it happen. So it's up to you as an individual to make that call, you know. And yes, it's not going to be easy. By far, it's not going to be easy. Don't expect
it. Absolutely.
If you expect it to be easy, then you're only kidding yourself. You know,
or if you think it's going to be solved like that, like I get a lot of people who will contact me from my perspective so that they could better understand their child, right? And getting parents to understand that they are literally breaking the normality of their child's life, okay, is difficult. Getting them to understand that your child has been raised inside of a cycle that says you not being a part of it is okay. And for you to come back and say, I've always been here, I've always wanted to be here, is like shaking the world of this child and saying their entire childhood was a lie. I experienced that. Okay. And I remember I was 17 when I met my father. And I remember I had never met him, didn't know what he looked like, had never laid eyes on him, didn't even know his middle name or his birthday, you know. And next thing I know, I'm on a plane the next day, and I'm meeting my father for the first time all by myself, because my mom was mad that I contacted him behind her back. So I was done. She was done with me. On a plane I went, never saw her again. It's been 12 years. So what was crazy to me is you think as a child, when you get there, you're going to be so mad, you know, like, where were you all of these years? And in a lot of ways I was. And then it shook me that when I met him, he had never forgotten about me. I just never had a memory of him, if that makes sense.
It does. It makes
sense. So I
walked
into this house of strangers, and everybody greeted me like I was just at their house, and they've never forgotten about me. Like if I was to pass them on the street, they would know who I was. And shaking the world of a child like that, flipping it upside down and saying without words, just with their actions, that your normality was a lie. Okay. Your father, his family were always there, but in the shadows, but you weren't allowed to see it. Everything you saw in front of you was a smoke and mirrors for a child, is like telling me this isn't a spoon, and I'm like,
Giving
how
you
am I supposed
false
to process this?
representation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so it has to be done very carefully, very lovingly, very much more so like today's our day one and we're moving forward, and processing through this with not just love, but kid gloves. That's what you need. You are going to deal with a broken child, regardless if that child's in their 20s, their 30s, or a teenager. And as much as the parent who's alienated is going through pain and wants them to know they always love them, right? I think the hardest side for the child's perspective is learning that their life was a lie and dealing with that. So you are asking that child to comprehend two things. One, their life was a lie, and two, you always loved them.
I was actually, I was actually asked by my uncle who brought me home one Christmas. I want to say this happened about maybe 4 years ago. And I'm coming home from Southern Maryland. My uncle was bringing me back up here. And he asked me, he goes, what are you going to tell your kids when they come to you and ask you, why weren't you there? And he's like, you don't have to answer it right this second. Take a moment to think of it, as we're, having our discussion, and then, and then come out with it. And I said, no, I said, there isn't a reason to sit back and think about it. The honest answer is that I would literally, I said, before you ask that question again, I'm going to provide you with all the information, all the court documents, everything. I want you to read it for yourself. I want you to see how I fought for you. I want you to watch all the YouTube videos, the events, and see all the events that I've done for you. And then once you've gone through all that, you can choose whatever you want to look at. Go, look through it, read through it, ask questions if need be, and then come ask me that question again, why I was never there for you, because I have been.
Well, and the truth is you were always there. They
exactly.
Just couldn't see you.
But it gives them
see you.
Right. But it gives them the opportunity to form their own thought process, to form their own opinion about the situation. Because what is the truth? I've always said there's always three sides to the truth. You got one side, you got the other side, and then there's the middle.
Or the right side.
Well, the middle is the right side. Yeah, because there's three sides. The middle is the middle ground, because one side's going to have their theory, the other side's going to have their theory, and it's all going to compile into one. But once all the evidence is presented and they see that, yes, you were fighting, you were at every court appearance, you were out there in the public, you're putting on events, you're attending events, you were speaking out about what was happening, they will be able to form their own critical thinking for themselves. And it's a great opportunity, because you're not sitting there, you're not bashing the other parent, because bashing the other parent is just wrong, period. But it gives them the understanding that you were there, that you were physically there. You're just being restricted by the courts, by CPS, or whoever it may be.
And you know what? Please hear me when I say this. For every parent out there who feels like they're not there for their child, okay, or their child's going to be upset with them that they weren't there, or whatever it was, when you get involved in this community to make a difference, okay, you're literally putting yourself in control of what you can be in control of to be there for your children. You can't be in control of somebody else saying you're not going to get your time when it's your time, or you're not going to get to see your kids, or all of the hateful things. You can't control what that person or that parent is doing to you. Okay. You can control how you react. And what I've noticed is when you become a part of the shared parenting community, what you become is an advocate for your children. What you become is an advocate for your parental role, whatever that is, mom or dad. And at that time, if you continue down that path, even if you can't afford to go to court anymore to physically fight for your kids, if you choose to fight by advocating, by being a positive person for change or helping, other alienated parents, I'm dead serious. When the day comes, and the day always comes, when you are reunited with your child, have that be on your terms or his terms or whatever, I would honestly tell you to look your children in the eye and say, you were always there. And you were there in the way that you were allowed to be there. If allowing you to be there was only to advocate for change, well then, sweetheart, that's the best you could do.
Yep.
You can't control attorney's fees. You can't control, what the courts tell you no. You can't control that parent taking away your time. You can do the right thing. You can be somebody of change. And in those moments of doing the right thing, you are very much so there for your child. And I wouldn't want anybody to lose that perspective.
Absolutely. And, there's a couple of Facebook memes that have been going around where it's actually got a picture of, I must tell my children that I've always been there. By you doing that, by you going out to these events, by you being part of this movement, it will tell them.
Yeah.
They'll see, everything that we're talking about. They're not clueless by no means.
Yeah.
Our children are not clueless whatsoever. They see it, they hear it, especially when you have an alienating parent out there bashing you, on social media, because they're like, oh, look at them, they're out there talking, as if they're the victims. We're not victims. Our children are the victims.
Yeah.
We're just the advocate fighting for the victim, which is our children.
Well, you're being a parent, okay? If you're fighting for your parental role, if you are standing up and saying these stigmas you're fighting against are not real, or these false accusations really do happen, sweetheart, you're being a parent, okay? You're fighting to protect your child in the only way that society is allowing you to. Don't discredit yourself because society, the X, the court, whatever have you, is taking away your time that you're trying to get, that you're calling to have, that you're, showing the court you have your court papers, and they're still saying no. If in every way the correct routes is saying this isn't going to happen for you, and you choose to not give up, and you say, well, you know what, then I'm going to make a solution. I'm going to advocate for change. I'm going to connect other parents. I'm going to be out in my community. I'm going to, whatever that I'm going to is, that is being a parent.
Yep.
Okay. That is, putting your time and effort into a solution so that your children don't live these cycles. That's a parent.
Yep.
Do we not teach our kids to learn from our mistakes? Well, if you're being taken away from your kids so you can't physically teach them, but you're teaching them through changing society, through changing laws, through getting involved, that's being a parent. And I don't think a lot of alienated parents give themselves, that recognition of how much they're still giving when nothing in return is being given back or respected for who they are as the parent. So keep that in mind. If all you can do is tune in and watch this and keep going, sweetheart, you're being a parent.
Yep.
If all you can do is continue to go to court and tell them that your time's being taken away and nothing's happening, well, guess what? You're being a parent. If you call and your ex isn't going to answer the phone and it's going to piss you off and you're going to be depressed for 10 days after this, but you still call, guess what? You're being a parent. And if you never allow yourselves to give up, you're being a goddamn parent.
Yep.
And we don't give ourselves that credit of the endurance and the amount of unconditional love and attention we put towards our children when we can't be present. You're being a parent. And I hope you hear that message.
Absolutely. 100% agree with that. Yes, we are activists, but we are being parents. This is our way to fight for our children, because we cannot physically be there in their lives. That's why I do this. Even if I had my children tonight, do you think I'd be on here right now?
No.
Exactly. I'd be spending time with my kids, because right now I only get one day. but I'm fighting for more time. I'm fighting for joint custody. I've had a lot of people ask me that too. Why are you going for joint custody? And I know I mentioned this earlier, because it wouldn't be in the best interest of our children. And they're like, well,
Yeah.
how? How do you see that? I said, well, because my children have already been taken away from me for almost 10 years. I've only been a every other weekend visitor, or one day a month, which is what I've had for the last, a year and a half, so to take
Do
the
you ever have
child.
people ask you, why are you going for joint custody? Look how much she's done to you. Why wouldn't you go for full custody? Do you ever get that question?
I do. And you know what I tell them? Two wrongs don't
Let's
make a
hear it.
right.
Guess what? You're being a parent.
I'm thinking of the bigger outcome for what our children need. They've already been through a very, very stressful time, over the last 9.5, almost 10 years. And I refuse to put any more turmoil on them. They deserve to have myself and the mother in their lives, regardless of what happened in the past. Like I said, it took me quite a few years. Like I said, I've been going on almost 10 years. It's been nine years and
That's
9 years, 9
crazy.
months. Yeah, it'll be actually 10 years in March. Oh my God, 10 years in March. Marks the 10-year anniversary of Nancy Schaefer's death. Jesus.
Wow.
Yeah. Fortunately, I didn't get to know Nancy Schaefer. I didn't get to actually physically speak to her.
I've watched a lot of her stuff on YouTube.
Yes.
A lot of the recordings that people have, and it's awesome.
Yep, I actually did an edited version of one that she did with Alex Jones. Yeah, because there were some things within that video that really didn't coincide with what the topic was. So I edited those portions out, shorten the video up a little bit, so it stays on topic. It doesn't focus on anything else other than what Nancy was talking about. But she also was at a forum, at one of the Eagle forums down in Georgia, when she was the 50th district representative. Yeah, so she spoke, and she spoke of her scathing report, the corrupt business of Child Protective Services. A great article. If you haven't read it, go read it. But yeah, so I've been dealing with this almost 10 years, and being a visitor with them, that every moment that I get to spend with them, I get to spend with them. And every once in a while, I'll do maybe a short live feed video when I'm with them, but do stuff with them. Take them out. Don't just stay in the home. Go around the neighborhood. Go to parks. Go to zoos. Aquariums. Try to figure something else to do with them than just sitting at home and playing on game systems or doing this and doing that. Do something more productive. Get them off the tablets.
Or if the money's tight, because a lot of times the money's tight, right?
Mm-hmm.
Money's tight. You're affording your child support, your bills. You're living on a limited income. Actually, I did a video on a non-custodial parent's paycheck,
mm-hmm.
And they live on. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Mm-hmm. And I've done a lot of different perspectives. It's not just one. It's another topic for another day. But there's a bunch.
Oh
yeah. And so a lot of dads are like, well, how am I supposed to spend this time? I can't even afford to go to the zoo or the gas money to go to the park or this or that. And literally, like, I live in those shoes myself. Okay. That artwork on the wall, that's my family time right there, because we can't afford to go to the zoo. We can't afford to. We went to a pumpkin patch this year and found out it costs $10 to get in per person. Well, we have 5 kids. Like, we're not.
Wow.
Yeah. So, what we did? We went to the local farmers market where we got locally grown pumpkins that happened to be 10 times better. And the memories that we spent with our kids were just as great. We lived within our means. If you feel that you're in a financial constraint to have a good time with your kids, let me tell you, guess what? Kids love to get dirty, and digging up dirt, simple. Painting rocks, easy. Mm-hmm. Racing up and down your neighborhood to see who can run faster, them or you, free. And we take those small moments for granted. Yep. We don't even and I told you I co-parent, right? Well, my kids have 5 Christmases. Okay. It's almost disgusting. Like, at this point, they're just bandits now. They're, they just make out like little bandits. when they come to my house, we don't do Christmas traditionally. We actually do Christmas by doing our Christmas dinner with dads. We did that last year with our kids. We do a feed the homeless thing at the beginning of November every year. And that's actually what we do with our kids is we do volunteer work and community service. And guess what? My kids look forward to it every year. And they
It
don't
teaches them
miss out on Christmas.
responsibility.
Yeah. Well, their duty to their community.
And the duty to the community, exactly. And it gives them something to look forward to as well. It gives them some sort of accomplishment that they were a part of this, like what you do, you provide, you go to the soup kitchens, I guess you could say, and you provide food to the homeless, and seeing that somebody who lives on the streets gets that hot meal, is to see the smile on their face and gets that thank you. It really gives you your heart. Think of the Grinch. When you're watching the movie The Grinch and you see the heart just get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, that's exactly what it does. It builds your self-esteem up as well. So, that's great for the children. And in the community, there are quite a few free things that you can do, that you don't have to go too far. Yeah. You don't necessarily have to go to the museum. Like the nearest museum that I have here, it's right around the corner. It's at the local, right here in Old Town where the train track is. They have a train museum. They don't have the big trains or anything. They got pictures and, little toy models that you can go through and you can read and, learn about the trains and whatnot. So, it's free to get in there. You don't have to go to DC. I live 30 minutes north of DC. I could take the train down there. It's not a big deal, Metro, but the whole fact of the matter is you don't need to go long distance to have a good time with the children. There's so many great opportunities, that you can have with the children when you have them. And
if you're a parent who's watching this, and let's say what we have found to be very effective in our home is when you're an every other weekend parent, a lot of times you don't get to get involved in school. So because you're not involved in school, now there's this perception of you at the school. It's like this double-edged sword constantly. Yep. And so what we started doing was going to my fiance's kids' school and asking them to make holiday cards for our Feed the Homeless thing. And they had no idea how involved my Brian was with his kids and with the community, and when they got to see this perspective of him, they were just like, wow, we had no idea. And he's like, yeah, I've been like trying to tell you. And it would help to break down those barriers and those stigmas of who he was for being an every other weekend dad. They actually got to see the memories he being with his kids. And so we started doing that. Our kids now, they go to their school and they ask all of their whole school in the art room to make holiday cards for the homeless, and my kids get to pass them out with their food. And so it's free. It's free. And guess what? As a parent, I didn't have to make the cards. So it's even better. And,
like I said, it gives them a sort of accomplishment to knowing that they're making a difference in somebody else's life. That is fantastic. And there's so many other suggestions that we can come up with. That's just, just one right there, so you don't have to go far, over here in the corner, you can't see it on camera. I had, on the shelf that I have, I got several board games. Let's see here. Sorry, Clue.
Love it.
Battleship. Oh, my son loves Battleship.
I have a good game for you. You have to play a game called Hearing Things. Have you played it before?
Hearing Things. No, I've never heard of it.
Okay, well, it's awesome. And you basically put these headphones on and they make noise. And then somebody is trying to say something to you and you have to try to figure out through like reading lips what they're saying. And kids love that. Yeah. We invite all of our artillery friends over who already can't hear and just play the game with no earmuffs on.
Yeah. So there's many great things, don't have your kids on the cell phones if they have one, depending on how old they are. Don't let them on the game systems, for long periods of time. Do something more productive. When I was going to college for criminal justice, I wanted to become a police officer, not after I've been through the family courts. No, after seeing the corruption and seeing how police deal with it and stuff like that, I'm like, why do I want to be part of an organization? They're like, oh, well, you can fix it from the inside. How can somebody who's just beginning on the force, how are they going to change it? It's not possible. But that's one of the reasons why I didn't want to become a police officer anymore. But I was going to school for criminal justice, for general studies, physical education, and child education. I can actually go work in a daycare right now if I wanted to. It's funny that I can. Yeah, it's funny that I can go be a provider and a teacher to everyone else's kids, but I can't even do that for my own kids. It doesn't make any sense. It just really doesn't make any sense. So, but
I have a friend that's a child psychologist, and doesn't get to see his own kids. And I'm like, how does that
Where's
happen?
the logic in that? There's no logic whatsoever. And this is one of the things that we're trying to change, ladies and gentlemen, is that concept that, if we're allowed to work with other people's children, be around other people's children, okay, how are we not a danger to them if they considered us a danger to our own children? It just
exactly.
It's mind blowing. But yeah, so going to school for child education, of course, for those who have been through college, you have to do projects. So when I had my time with my kids, and my professors, they love my professors. They love the fact that I do this or that I did this. I literally sat around the table. If I had to make a poster board or something like that, I go out, I get the glitter, the glue, the scissors, everything, the construction paper. And I would literally have my children help me out with my projects. They would literally have their hands into it just as much as I did, putting their perspective and so forth. And, the professors love the fact that I do that because it shows that my initiative to want to be able to teach. Because in the process of doing these projects, it was also teaching my children too. And it's no different from being in a daycare or being in pre-K or first grade or second grade on up. The children learn. And if they don't know how to do something, you teach them how to do it. And that was the great opportunity. And that's what, and that right there is what builds the memories with your children. Because when they see that you're teaching them something, my son said it all the time, because you're smart, Daddy. Well, of course I am.
Duh.
So, yeah, I actually
that's awesome.
2 months ago, I want to say about 2 months ago, when I had my visit with him, his mother sent over his homework with him, and it's all on video. I actually have all the cameras in my home for when I have visitors come over. Everyone's subjected to be recorded in my home. They don't like that they don't come in. Yeah, well, all my visits I record because I'm not going to have the he said, she said.
That's sad. And that's sad that you have to live like that.
It is. But it is happening. When I'm at home, the cameras are rolling too, just so somebody decides to come in. I have it all recorded anyway. So my own security system. But my son was having problems trying to figure out what he was going to do. He had to draw a picture and write a phrase underneath it, something what not to do during a certain activity. And he started drawing it like, no, I don't care about this. I'm just going to just do something. And I'm like, why are you doing it like that? Show more initiative. I said, you want to get a good grade? He goes, yeah. I said, then show more initiative. And he goes, what do you mean by that? So I stepped away and I went and grabbed my portfolio because I was an artist. I did go to school. I did do some art classes in college. And so I pulled out my portfolio and I showed him. I said, this is showing initiative. Don't just do something diggly daggly, and just be done with it. Show more initiative. That initiative is what's going to get you that A. If you're just going to sit around and just be like, oh, and just blow it off and just be like, draw a circle with a line through it and a horse in the center of it, that's not showing initiative. Be more productive in what you do. The more productive you are, the better you'll be in life.
Yeah.
So, and
I think that's like what you just gave it a perfect example of is the obvious necessity for both parents to be actively involved, because what you focus on for your children to have as values and virtues may be different than what your ex focuses on. it's not that either one is better, but they're both necessary. So if their dad focuses on initiative and their dad focuses on, being productive and putting your energy into being more, okay, and maybe mom is, more focused on discipline and having goals. Well, if we don't have those two perspectives from both parents, the child is only getting half the values and virtues that they need.
Absolutely.
And you cannot give that value and virtue on one day a month, let alone every other weekend. It's something that takes a constant basis. And so I think the best example that you gave is the positivity of having two parents actively involved. What I value as a parent is totally different than what my ex-husband values as a parent. But we have to allow our children to value both of us so that they will value themselves, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
And so
it does 100%.
That's what it means to be a parent. It's not that difficult. I think we made it more difficult, and honestly, because the root of all evil is money, and we turned parenting into a business. And so that's our issue. We totally got off topic though when it comes to the holiday season.
Well, no, because I don't think in a way we did, but also in a way we didn't, because it's going to show, like we were just talking about the money. It doesn't take money to be able to do something with your children, because there are things out there. No. Your community is doing something. So if you do and are able to get your children, definitely go out and do those things. A lot of these things in the community are free. And again, if you're not a parent,
events.
Yeah. And again, if you're not able to see your children, there are resources out there for you. Come on to our live feeds that we're going to be doing on Facebook. Now I'm going to get with Carlos to see if we can do a Zoom just like this. Because I'm able to do this 24/7 throughout the day. I can do a complete 24-hour show where everyone can come on for their hour and do it live right here, instead of doing straight live
That'd
Facebook.
Awesome.
And that would be cool. It also gives more
and
resources.
if you're a parent in Oklahoma, contact me. Please contact me, because I will most likely be doing something for parents during the holiday season. And since last year, we've actually grown. We were just in Oklahoma City. That's where I live. And since then, we've grown to Tulsa and Lawton. And so we are in 3 locations, and we're hoping to put on 3 separate things this holiday season. And
awesome.
We're all a bunch of broke parents like you. So it's going to be a potluck, and we're going to do it in an open community area that is free. And so if all you could afford for your kids this year, for the holiday dinner is a pie, well, guess what? If you come out to our event, somebody's going to have the turkey, somebody's going to bring the stuffing, somebody's going to have the ham, and guess what? All together, our kids have everything they need. That's community. And
you just bring up,
we want to offer.
Yeah, you just bring up an excellent point. If kids are expecting presents, then something's wrong. They've lost the true meaning of what the holidays are about. And it's something that you can teach them, that Christmas, Thanksgiving, it's not about presents. It's not. It's about coming together as family or friends.
Take your kids to the Veterans Center, where there's a ton of veterans out there who have no family visiting them. Some of the most self-sacrificing people you ever meet are veterans at the VA from Desert Storm, Vietnam, Iraqi freedom, all of this stuff. Like, you could take your kids there, and I'm telling you, they will have the most meaningful experience, and those veterans have the best stories.
Oh, they do.
They do. And it's one of the best experiences you can give to a child, period. And I promise you, they're going to be talking about those experiences long after their toy that you got them has broken, or before their birthdays come and they've already forgotten about what they got for Christmas. They're going to come and they're going to say, hey, are we going back to that veteran center next year? Promise you.
I actually had somebody tell me, because I made a post, because, my son's 12. What do I get a 12-year-old boy? I don't know. I keep asking him, what do you want for your birthday and what do you want for Christmas? I don't know. Well, what do you mean you don't know? Are you not interested in anything? It's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm
He
like,
probably doesn't even know himself anymore.
yeah. So I was like, well, you're 12 years old. You got to be interested in something. And I was like, well, he's like, what do you like doing? He goes, well, I'm always playing on the tablet. I play Fortnite. And I'm thinking, crap, get all this merchandise at my store, of Fortnite. I can get a bunch of stuff there. But, but do I really want him, sitting on the game system? Why would I want to get him stuff that is part of a game that he plays online? So it's one of those things you got to be very mindful, and you want to be more productive with them, like I said before. And so
Why don't we do a challenge this year? Why don't we do a shared parenting challenge to see who could give their kid the best experience? Instead of doing a toy, let's do a best experience. All you have to do is from now in between, like, let's just say now and Thanksgiving, okay? If you have your kids, whatever day that is, go do an experience, take a picture, put something on it, like we experienced, I don't know, feeding the homeless, or we experienced reading to the elderly or something, and we'll pick a winner on Thanksgiving, and let's do an experience challenge.
Yeah. Well, that's actually a great opportunity. Maybe you can get Dad Talks Today and the other podcasters that are out there that are joining forces, joining hand in hand to do the same thing. And that's one of the things I did, not last visit, the visit before last, that my mom was able to bring them to me because they're my glorified babysitters watching me with my children.
Wow.
My kids, they're like, I want a betta fish. I'm like, okay, I'll get you a betta fish. So what do we do during my visit? Instead of staying home, we did my son's homework first. We did a little things here at the house. And then I was like, okay. My mom needed to go out to the store anyway. So I said, all right, we'll go out and enjoy some time out in town. And then I said, we'll go to the pet store too. So what do we wind up getting? We got 3 betta fishes. I literally got 3 tanks, 3 betta fishes, all the nonchalance to go inside and everything. And they were so happy. And, but being at the pet store, they were so fascinated by the other animals that I'm going to do it again, but this time I'm going to get 3 bearded dragons, and I'm going to let my kids pick out their own bearded dragon.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So that right there is a great opportunity. What else did we do?
So are you allowed to communicate with your kids throughout the month, or are you only allowed to see them on that one day and that's your only communication you get?
I am allowed to talk to them. However, they are supposed to contact me. I can't contact them. I'm supposed to get one Skype. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Okay.
We'll go, trust me. If you want to interview me on here one day, about my own situation, I am all for it. I've done it. Carlos Rivera's interviewed me. Stephen Ball has interviewed me. Brian Kenter's interviewed me. Many people have interviewed me on their platforms, and I'm not one, as you can see here, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not one to sit there and shy away from the camera. So I'm an open book. I really am. Carlos actually came 2 years ago when I actually physically met Carlos for the first time at an event in DC. And then, we became great friends. And then he decided to want to do a cross-country tour to talk with parents that are going through the system. So, and he lives up in New York, but he took the train all the way down here and stayed at my place for 2 days and interviewed me on his platform in my home. He got firsthand, he saw all the documents. He, before he even did the interview, he looked through the documents and he saw, what I've been going through. And he was just like, oh my God, I can't believe you're actually going through this. That was his reaction. So I'm an open book when it comes to my case. And, I'm not afraid to speak out and say how my children and myself have been done wrong.
Yeah.
So, but
totally. Well, I was thinking about your fish and your dragons, and I was like, how funny would that be if you just like took your dragon somewhere with you? Like you're at the grocery store, you take a picture and it's like your dragon days or whatever. And so you could send that kids and be like, hey, like today, me and whatever your dragon's name is, we went and got some milk today or whatever. And just do that like once a day, like you're walking your dragon like to the park or, you know, it's like, oh, it's cold up here and your dragon has a scarf on it. Like, how hilarious would that be if you just took a picture every day of your dragon doing something and sent it to
that
him?
would, you know,
Yeah.
but while we were at the pet store that day, you know, my son was fascinated with the snakes. You know, there was a corn snake, there was a milk snake, there was a python, and he was fascinated with them. So 2 weeks after our visit that we had, I literally went and bought a snake, and sitting right over here, and I love the
Which one
sucker.
did you get?
I got the milk snake, and
Okay.
they're not very tempered. You know, you can't really hold them or anything. Every once in a while, he'll allow you to pick him up, but he's very skittish. Most milk snakes, corn snakes, they're not very friendly to hold. And like the pythons are, you can literally sit on the couch back here, watch a movie, and let the snake sit right in your lap, and it won't ever move. It'll stay coiled.
Yeah.
So, but
you have long hair, right?
I do.
Yeah.
I do have long hair.
I'm from Phoenix. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. We grew up with snakes as like our normality growing up as well. So we had corn snakes. I'm telling you, corn snakes like to be in your hair, and they'll just twist around it.
Yep.
You could hang out, and that corn snake will stay in your hair. We used to do it as kids all the time. So you should just do it. Just have the snake in your hair when your kids come over and be like, "Oh, hey guys," and just turn around and just watch them like freak out.
And be like Medusa, snakes coming out of the hair.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so there's many great opportunities out there. I know during the summertime, I took my kids down to the zoo. They loved it. My son loved going through. All right, funny story for you guys, and then we got to get ready to close up here in about 20 minutes. But funny story. So we go through the reptile section of the zoo, and we're looking at all the snakes, and man, they got some big snakes in there. You know, the alligators, the spiders. You know, everything that's in there. And as we're exiting out the back door of the exhibit, a black snake started coming out from the bush, going across the sidewalk. My son, literally, he opened that door. He jumped so.
Nope.
My Lord. It was so priceless, man. He jumped so high and ran back in. He's like, oh my God, it's a snake. I look out.
We're finding a new exit. I would be with your son and be like, nope, we're not going out that door. There's a second one.
But to see him, you know, be like getting up real close to the glass and everything, because the snake's right there up against the glass, and you know, he's so fascinated.
Fearless.
And exactly, fearless, and you know, he's sitting there doing like Harry Potter did in the movie, and started, you know, trying to speak Slytherin. Oh, it was funny. And it turned around and opened that door, and boom! Oh no, he's running back in. oh, it was priceless. Even my mom, that she was there, she was laughing up the storm. A couple of the people that were behind were laughing up the storm. Oh, it was priceless. My son's like, it's not funny. We're like, oh, it is funny.
Poor kid. Oh no.
God, I wish I had that on video.
Of us.
Yeah, I wish I had that on video. I would share that, but but it's the moments like that.
Poor guy.
Yeah, but it's moments like that mean the most to them. You know, spending time with them. Whatever you do, always make time for them, and you know, don't talk bad about the other parent, regardless of how you feel about their other parent. You know, mother or father. You know, their children.
The kid cares more about the time that they're going to get to spend with you than the arguments you have between you and your ex. And I think the greatest point we could bring up to this is kids are simple. It's parents that are difficult. And kids, all they want to do is have memories, have experience, you know, discipline, learn more than any kid will ever admit. We do want discipline. You know, we want structure. We want to learn. We want to have memories. We want to have experience. Everything else in between, how we interpret that as parents is what makes it difficult. And
you know,
I think
exactly. And I highly recommend
keep it simple.
Yeah, keep it simple, but make it educational for them. Every day is a learning experience for them. You know, whenever we do dinner here at the house, you know, at my place, you know, I don't do the cooking. My kids do the cooking. Of course, I'm there for guidance and tell them, you know, how, if they don't know how to do something, I'll teach them how to do it. But they're the ones doing it. You know, get them involved. You know, a lot of these kids growing up today, they don't, you know, they'll burn water, you know, in a pan.
Yeah, right. Sad. Sad.
So yeah, teach them some culinary things when you have them. Don't just be going out ordering pizza or going out to fast food restaurants. Do something more productive where they're learning too. Because they're going to take that back, and realize that, damn, my mom and dad really love me. They do things with me. That's what they're looking for. And, if you get to talk to them over the phone, and like I was saying earlier, how I'm supposed to get 1 Skype call a week plus 2 phone calls, and which don't happen on a regular basis, even though it's court ordered. But that's another story for another day, but just talking with them, even if it's only for 5 minutes, that means a lot to them. So think of your kids
it
first
does, and you're totally right. And I think don't overcomplicate it. I think some of the best lessons I've ever learned is not to repeat the feelings of my own childhood. You're going to remember things as a parent, and you're going to say, I've been here as a kid before. Mm-hmm. Don't remember the actions of being there as a kid. Remember the feelings of what you went through as a child, and do something different. Be someone different, and always remember you can't control how other people treat you, how the system reacts to you, how society has created a normality, but you can control what you can control. And if that's your child's experience with you, control that. Mm-hmm. If that's how you choose to stay involved with advocating, with being a part of, supporting your amazing radio station, okay, if that's how you choose to be involved, be that. Focus on what you can control. And when your children do get that time with you, they're going to see that. Mm-hmm. And they're going to reflect on the fact that they probably have a parent at home who focuses on the negative and focuses on, the not so positive sides. And at least when they can come to your house, regardless if that's every other weekend, 1 week in a month, or never, okay, when they do get to see you, they're going to see who focuses on the positive. Mm-hmm. And it's going to be an impact. And it will make a difference.
Absolutely.
I promise you.
Absolutely. Yeah. But it is about that time where we got about 15 minutes left. I do want to discuss what's going to be happening in the future as we continue this podcasting here on RFIRN. We got a lot of great things coming out for you guys, that are out there listening. Those who are going through the system, who need the guidance. I got PowerPoints that I've been working on for the last 3 months. I actually took a couple co-parenting classes, some parenting classes on my own free time. It's nothing that the courts have ordered me to do, because I've already done it for the courts, years ago in my 9-year battle, or almost 10-year battle. So, but I've taken all this information, especially from the co-parents, and I've turned them into PowerPoints of my own. And awesome. We're going to be doing some PowerPoint presentations. Some of the interviews that we're going to do are not going to be live interviews. They're going to be pre-recorded interviews, like we're doing here on Zoom. They're going to be recorded on Zoom, and then we're going to share it live on another show. So not all of our shows are going to be on straight live feeds. But so
that's awesome.
If you want to have your case be interviewed by us, do get a hold of us. You can reach out to us on our emails for Restoring Families Internet Radio, RFIRN Network at gmail.com. Again, RFIR Network at gmail.com. And we'll definitely get the process started. Just in the email, just tell us briefly what you're going through. Just 2 to 3 paragraphs. It don't have to be in great detail. Just give us a generalized idea to what you're facing. And then we can actually, already have a recollection of what you're going through. We can already form some questions during the initial interview when we talk to you over the phone, via social media, Messenger, Skype, or any other form. And then we'll do the initial interview on a separate day, which will be the recorded aspect of what we're going to, edit and, chop up and put into an actual video to where we'll actually air on a live show. So, yes, we will have live people come on to share their stories, but also do some pre-recorded. We will be doing some holiday work as well. I know the last 2 years when we did it, I actually did a full 24 hours myself, where I actually had Christmas music playing. which was pretty cool.
Wow.
You know, a lot of people
Wow.
that weren't able to, and they were sitting back doing nothing, sitting at home watching TV or whatever, and they were having a hard time. I literally listened to the Christmas music and making comments, you know, in the comment section, you know, for anyone that wanted to join. That was a huge success over the last couple of years. So I'll probably be doing the same thing if Carlos and I can't coordinate to do it straight one straight through live feed instead of having to worry about, you know, when somebody's coming on. You know, they can come on at their hour. So there's a lot of great things coming out here. So PowerPoint presentations. We're going to have doctors come on, like Dr. Carlos, talking about what he does. You know, Dr. Mark Roseman, which he was just interviewed with on Dad Talk today, you know, just yesterday.
Yep.
We'll have Ginger Gentile come on. James Kelly, you know, we're going to have all these individuals come on.
Some awesome lineups.
Yeah, exactly. A very, very big lineup. And we're working with Dad Talk Today, Dad Talk Today, Carlos Rivera's group that he does when he travels around and does recordings himself. And the best interest of the children's, what his is called. What else? God, there's so many out there.
And I think what the audience needs to get back from this is the collaboration. Okay.
Working
as
together.
Much as your internet radio does for our community, there's something a little different that Dad Talk does, that Carlos Rivera does, that, you know, I do, that we all do different. But when we come together to create this cohesive message together, we then create change. And that's what I want to do. Before we get off here, please let me thank you. Thank you for letting me be a part of this, even if only temporary, to give your much needed co-host some paternity.
Oh, you don't need to be temporary. You can be full time if you want. That's up to you.
Heck no. Okay, so I have furnishing fatherhood. We're doing houses to homes, cleaning out repossessed homes for new families. We have feeding the homeless. We have freaking our Christmas dinner with dads. Between everything I'm doing in the community, I just want to pop in. I just want to pop in and be like, hey, I'm here to help today. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything
you're
else,
always welcome.
I couldn't dedicate.
Yeah, you're always welcome. Steven will eventually be back, like he's dealing with some personal plus maternity leave, extra maternity leave. He's a stay-at-home dad. God bless his heart. I wish I could be a stay-at-home dad.
Nice. No, you don't.
Yes, I do. If I could spend 24 hours with my kids, man, I would literally love it to death. So
Brian says the same thing. Brian. My Brian says the same thing. Since I quit my job to do this full time, I actually my daughter goes with me to the Capitol when I go. My daughter goes with me to the homeless shelters, goes with me to meet the Congresswoman, do all of these things. She's with me wherever I go.
You actually just did that.
The same way.
Yeah, you actually just met with the Congresswoman. So
Twice.
That was awesome. Twice. Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
So
we're actually going for a third.
Oh,
yeah, we had this amazing meeting, and her team asked to bring her whole team on board to have a more formative discussion about shared parenting and Title 4D. And so I have to tell you before we get off here, this is a very good tool, and I'll send you mine. I'll send it to you privately, but I took my care and custody laws, Title 48, Section 112, and I broke it down. There's 3 sections, section 1, 2, and 3. And the first section says the court shall, and then it says dictate the education, the custody, the medical insurance for the child. The next section was for non-custodial parents, and then it was unwed parents. So I broke down the first section, and I put in every single statistic that adhered to Oklahoma children's education, their custodial standards, and the medical insurance. So if the courts are allowed to depict what our children receive as far as custody and care goes, well, then I put 38%, I went to the Annie E. Casey Foundation, 38% of Oklahoma children have state-funded insurance, which has only gone up by 6% in 10 years. So if they're only allowed to dictate custody, 48 or 42.8 or 48.2, I'll have to go back and read it, lives without one or both of their parents. Oklahoma children will grow up with one or both of their parents being absent. And then the same with education standards. 71% of third graders are not proficient in reading. So I took their own law and their own social statistics, and I showed the cause and effect of what the courts cause in our society by allowing the courts to make these decisions. And she loved it. She's a Democrat. Okay, there's that. Not a big deal, but she loved what I had to say, took what I had to say and said, can I get another meeting with you? I gave her another meeting that was more private, and she said, can I bring my team on board? Can you come back? And I was like, yep, sure can. And it was huge.
That is awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
but yeah, no, definitely. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for coming on and doing this part-time with me. And like I said, if you want to do it full-time, if you want to, I don't want to take you away from anything else that you're doing, because you're doing some fantastic work with what you're doing over there. And, hopefully we can take some of that, bring it on to here to help all other parents too. For those who don't watch Dad Talk Today or any of the other podcasts, at least they will have some knowledge what's going on, and they can reach out to you. Like you said, you do the whole the donation thing. Maybe a father or mother here in Maryland or somewhere here along the East Coast needs. If
you want to get that started, if you guys want to get that started in your area, reach out to me. My name is Linda Steele. That's my real legal name, and that is my name on Facebook. And I'll help you get the Furnishing Fatherhood started in your state. I'm not looking for recognition. I'm just looking to bring the support to people. So let me know and I'll help you get it started.
Absolutely. So, but I do want to show again real quick for those who are possibly thinking of having, suicidal ideologies during the holiday season, please reach out to the suicide hotline number. It's right there, 1-800-273-TALK. So 1-800-273-8255, 1-800-273-8255. You can also text their text line to 741-741. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, Linda, again, thank you for joining me tonight. There's much, much more to come. Like I said, PowerPoints, doctors, we're going to have legislators come on as well that we've had in the past on Restoring Families Internet Radio. Stay tuned to our YouTube channel. We will be posting as we get them. Matter of fact, I'm trying to finish up one right now. Right after this, hopefully I'll be able to finish it tonight. If not, I'll be able to finish it in the coming days. The edited versions of our shows from Blog Talk, and we're going to be putting them on YouTube, so you can go back and see them. We had 248 episodes on Blog Talk.
Wow,
which is huge. That was huge.
That is huge.
So that tells you how long we've been doing this, and we've had a lot of moments.
That'll be exciting to see that evolution too.
Yep, exactly. So, we've had a lot of experience in this, and we're looking forward to bringing back more experience and assistance to those that are going through the traumatic situations that you're going through. And hopefully we can give you all the guidance that you need to, push for joint custody, shared equal time, and so forth. We'll be working with Mark Ludwig with Americans for Equal Share Parenting, Dad Talks Today. Dads Can Too, the Fatherless Rights Movement. We're linking up with all these organizations to help you, the audience out there who are seeking the assistance to help battle their situation. So again, thank you, Linda, for joining me tonight. Thank you for those that have watched. Thanks to those who are going to be watching, and stay tuned. We're going to be doing this every Sunday night from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. And we're going to have fun.
Yes.
If you're not having fun, you're not living, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. And thank you for having me on here. And for the rest of the audience, I hope you took some good from this conversation. You're worth more. And a lot of people see that. Reach out to us and we will help to remind you if you can't see it. Thank you. Thank you again for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's definitely a pleasure. Look forward to working with you moving on from here. And we'll see everybody next Sunday. Have a good night.
All right. Bye.